Good morning, everybody. It's Jillian. It is Jillian. So yeah, I'm wearing like a headband thing because I wanted to see what it'd be like to wear a headband, and I love the freedom. No hair on my face or anything, so that's nice. I figure I would touch upon the post that I wrote last night regarding Trump and him not making vaccines mandatory, though every private establishment, even companies, can have their own protocols on what they would require to be employed. So it's not like you're escaping contingent situations on vaccinations, okay? There's going to be things in your community that's going to make it hard for you to exercise your freedom, okay? So it's very predictable and very consistent of the architects of our society to weaponize your body against you, to weaponize your freedoms against you. And what do I mean by that? Well, you know, the antibodies is a body's way of keeping the balance when you go from one environment to another. So you're supposed to release the excess antibodies, and that way they're not harboring in your system, causing more destruction. And that's kind of what's going on right now. Is people are being exposed to so much, so many different um, imbalances, and they're not releasing the excess, and so they have this antibody buildup, and then it does a number on them. It causes exotic diseases, which is basically your body trying to evolve. So with this freedom, the freedom to not get a mandatory vaccine, where they're saying what the military is going to check for purity. What has anything around the military and purity and knowing what's right really makes sense when it comes to anything medical and anything that is gonna be, yeah, medical. I mean, health wise, I don't wouldn't put health and the military in the two of the same sentences. Okay, so I'm telling you, we're being had. So when you're saying, oh yes, the freedom to not to get mandatory vaccinations, but those that want it can have it. The military will be distributing it, and other stuff, not making 5G mandatory roll. I don't, whatever. Um, when you don't have a consistent type of effective cure that's across the board, that everyone's going to get a very positive benefit, and then you have different politics and people being fed stories to get them to trigger, and then they fight each other. And so the anti-vaxxers and the pro-vaxxers have been at each other's throats for a very long time. And that was actually manufactured, because now that I see it, yes. When you have so much disease in a population and they're saying that getting a vaccine is what would stop the diseases, and then you have people who are like, oh gosh, no, it's bad, it does this, it does that, and they are conscientious objectors. When people get the disease, who do they blame? They blame the other person. They will blame, so the anti-vaxxers will blame the pro-vaxxers will blame the anti-vaxxers, and you're now in a war of perceptions. And guess what? People are still dying. And so you're already seeing the stage laid out for when they do roll out the vaccines. You know who's going to get it first. It's the doctors, the nurses, the hospital staff, the first responders, the teachers, all the pro-vaxxers. They're going to get it. And I even know my next door neighbor is going to get the vaccine because he told me so. I don't want to mess with that because his mom is a pretty scary lady, so I'm not going to mess with that family and giving him any of the lowdown, so I just leave it alone. But I know for a fact that someone in my neighborhood is going to get the vaccine as soon as it comes out. So you know that vaccines do shed, right? Vaccines do shed. It's even mentioned in academia, PubMed, that yes, shedding happens, between 3 and 4 days or so right after exposure. Some are going to shed more aggressive than others because they have predispositions. And so you know that virus is going to be mutated. You know it's going to mutate. You know it's going to change, and it's going to be into different strains. And then it's going to be a shit show for those that are immunocompromised. So right now, the system is setting the stage to where as soon as they come out with a vaccine and they make it voluntary, they know those that will get afflicted, because they know the immunocompromised are going to be affected by the new vaccine, by those that have been recently vaccinated, and they know they're going to shed and infect the environment. And people aren't going to be social distancing. They may even repeal the mask mandates. So no one's going to wear a mask, right? And so they're all going to be communing together, and it's going to be a cesspool of who knows what kind of exotic diseases are going to come out of that. So I hate to burst your bubble, but if you want to really prove that vaccines work, you make it mandatory across the board, and there can't be any deaths. If you want to prove that vaccines work, it means no death, no disease, because that's what people are looking for. It's like, oh, we got to find the vaccine that has the less adverse reactions, right? But they can't do that because they know that vaccines aren't vaccines aren't healthy. They're not healthy. But we are dealing with a very immunocompromised population that may derive benefit maybe 50, 100 years ago when they first came out. But now they're being used for nefarious intentions. Why am I saying that? Because it's the antibodies, the monoclonal antibodies that are in the vaccines that cause the severity of your reaction, which is basically evolution. But evolution doesn't always have to be triggered, because if you are attacking your body with antibodies, remember, you have to understand the science. The foundation of this is antibodies. Monoclonal antibodies. They're not putting probiotics and jelly juice in these vaccines. No, they're putting monoclonal antibodies with other types of energizing forces, adjuvants, that stimulate the immune system to create more antibodies. Okay? So when you have that the amount of severity of antibodies in the vaccines, that's what causes the adverse reactions, the major evolutionary responses. So, that's why jelly juice is so consistent. It says, okay, eat whatever diet, do the jelly juice, get the waterfalls. You're going to release the excess antibodies. Yes, you're going to feel pain. Not because jelly juice is antibiotic. Obviously, it's not. It's been proven it's a probiotic. It has 13 million colony-forming units of lactobacillus. Lactobacillus, that's this type, is lactoplantarum, that is attached to the cabbage and the kale. It can live in high salinity. It is a halophile. You, as a human, are halophiles, okay? You actually were created in the ocean, and now you are a human with the microbiome. So jelly juice will basically bring up all the antibodies that you have been harboring in your lymph nodes and all the different places and come to surface, and then you're going to have to heal. You're going to have to evolve, and it's not very fun. It's painful, okay, for some of you. So we know that jelly juice is very consistent. Now, as far as what you're going to deal with is based upon your predispositions. Everybody has different weaknesses. Okay, some may have more predispositions in their heart or cardiovascular system. Some may have more predispositions in their digestive system. Some may have more predispositions in their nervous system, reproductive system. So they're going to feel a lot more of the evolution in different places than other people. Okay, so even though jelly juice isn't going to have the same, like you're not going to experience the same evolution as other people, it's based upon what was really damaged in your body and what kind of PTSD you've ever encountered and that you're holding on to. Okay, but universally, you're going to feel some kind of evolution. Yeah, you're going to probably feel headaches. You're probably going to feel thirsty, so you drink water. You're going to eat whatever food that you can eat. If you are anaphylactic allergic, then yeah, don't eat that food until you're ready to reintroduce that back into your diet. And so jelly juice is universal, and it's not poisonous, and it's probiotic. But the reason why they don't make vaccines mandatory, but they will make it to where it's so encouraged because you want to take part in our society. But they want to make you think that they're going to give you some kind of latitude. Trump wants you to think he's going to give you some kind of latitude, some freedom to choose. And but the thing is that you'll never know if vaccines actually work. Like, no one will ever know for sure, 100% everybody know if vaccines work, because they're not going to give you a scenario to where it's predictable. The more unpredictable these health remedies are and biotech is, the more they can hide behind the unpredictability and blame you or find someone to blame. Like right now, they're blaming the unmasked people, okay, for all the different upsurges in different areas. So, when you create a Tower of Babel, when you have so many different people in our society with so many different predispositions and different levels of evolution, it's easy to pit one against the other and then roll something out that no matter what, if you don't have what it takes to handle it, you're going to die. But they'll find a way to make sure you blame somebody else, not the actual culprit, which is biotech and the people in biotech with nefarious intentions. But what are you going to do at this point? So you're going to do jelly juice, all right? This also then kind of reminded me about the adrenochrome and how the elite are using adrenochrome, blood, sucking blood, and all that stuff from children, and using fear and the adrenals to bring out this hormone. And it's like a high. It gives them a very temporary youthful look, but they still look like they're aging. So it's not like adrenochrome really brings you to youth and vitality back when you were like in your 20s. No, the adrenochrome just kind of gives you a little bit of vitality back, but not 100%. And you have to keep getting it to, but then at some point your body's going to give out by taking that hormone replacement therapy. So I don't know, with this thing with the lockdown and whoever's in charge of all of this craziness, and the Georgia Guidestones where they talk about guiding reproduction carefully, and then I'm seeing like these what is it, baby banks where they are able to harvest humans in a lab where you don't even need a uterus to do it anymore. Well, that's kind of what the future is all about. And the less people that are making babies, okay, well, yeah, that's less targets for these bloodsuckers to go after, if I can say it in so many words. But then you won't be able to see what they're using these babies for. Okay, and that's the scary thing, is that, and so at this point, you really can't stop the storm that's coming. You can't stop what science right now is doing. If people find out that there are these baby banks are being created, will that be allowed in the future as an actual practice? I'm hoping not, because when you do create babies in a lab, okay, you can't control what they're doing with these children, with these babies that are in a lab. And don't be surprised if there are so many different perceptions. And if you don't know the people in your community, you have no idea if they were made in a lab and then were adopted by this family. I was adopted, but you could tell I was adopted. I mean, I'm Vietnamese and I'm with a white family, so that's obvious. But when you have families with children, especially in the future, if that's where they want to go, is guide reproduction carefully, you wonder where these babies came from. Really, was it from the mom, or was it from a lab, and then they're using that family to then raise that child for whatever purposes? And who's to say? I mean, you wonder, like you guys seen Chester Bennington and all these different stars that have been abused by people in high levels of government that are practicing the satanic ritual abuse stuff. They were created out of these groups, these satanic stuff, and then they were put into these places of like talents, singing, and they could be like a Mark Zuckerberg, it could be like a Jeff Bezos. I mean, you don't really know where these billionaires come from and who they're related to and where they, we just don't know. So if you don't know, like, I don't even know who Mike DeWine is. I'm not gonna say he's a reptilian, no, but you don't know who people are. And so you almost have to just suspend disbelief. You almost have to just take everything with a grain of salt. Realize that we do live in an illusion, that we do live in a major illusion. I mean, I'm watching the movies from the 80s and I'm just like, oh my God, this is so in your face. The MK Ultra, the pedophilia, the child abuse, all that stuff is so in your face. in the 80s, the movies in the 80s and the 70s and the 60s, and I'm just like, and that's around the sexual revolution, of course. And Drew Barrymore and Brooke Shields, they were used in the industry and inappropriately. They were pimped by their moms and all that. It's wow, 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 wow. So I have no idea what's going to come in the future. Just know that if you're turning to hydroxychloroquine and all these different detoxes and antibiotics to deal with your COVID symptoms when they do roll out the vaccines, it's only going to make it worse. That's why jelly juice is probably the only thing that's going to save a lot of you that are strong enough to handle the healing process. Because I'm telling you, the more they ramp up the instability in the atmosphere and in your environment, the more you're going to have to adapt. And some of you will not have what it takes to adapt. Okay? And so that's why I just really urge you that if you can understand where I'm coming from with releasing the excess antibodies, understand the illusions of brainwashing where they're using archetypes. Okay, this is in psychology, and you can see all the different archetypes. And I mean, there's a few of them: the damsel in distress, the temptress, the initiate, the martyr. The martyr are the religious folks that are just like, I'll die for Jesus type of thing. Okay, um, the devil, or the monster. I mean, they have you all pegged and figured out and groomed to take on these specific archetypal characteristics. And then the system will then create icons and heroes and stars and politicians to then relate to those specific heroes. So Trump is like an archetype. He's like the hero archetype. I'm going to save you from the deep state. I'm going to save you from all this stuff. And I'm going to make sure that your freedoms are put in place. And then all of you guys that are like damsels in distress, and all of you guys are like, yeah, so I'm a fighter, I'm a this, whatever that archetype is, you can read that. They will relate to him and they will vote for him. It's all brainwashing, all of it. And then Biden's like this obvious. I don't want to make any accusations, but obviously that Biden is questionable in his lifestyle and his behaviors. And obviously having Biden and having Trump next to each other, juxtaposition, who you're going to vote for, you're going to vote for Trump. But it's not going to make any difference because the storm's already rolling in. They already have the stage set for all of you guys to fight each other and blame each other for the COVID-19 virus to do even more damage because the vaccines are coming out, because the hydroxychloroquine is going to be coming out. Or people are going to be using it because they think that Fauci is trying to hold it from them. I'm telling you, there's so many multifaceted propaganda campaigns that it makes my head spin. But you just got to rise above it and realize it for what it is. And then when you watch movies and you watch TV and you see how many times they talk about antibodies, and you see how many times they talk about experiments and well, like in movies and science fiction where they're trying to tell you what they're trying to do for the future, and you see all the MK Ultra and all the abuse and the torture and the violence and the bloodsucker like Twilight, where basically it's glorifying adrenochrome drinkers. I'm telling you, it's insane. And so watching movies from the 80s, now I'm like, oh my God, this is what people were watching in the 80s when I was a kid. And I wasn't watching a lot of movies. My mom didn't let us watch a lot of movies. She made us watch Disney 24/7 and Sesame Street and all that stuff. But these movies that I'm watching that came out when I was a kid, I'm like, holy crap, it's right in your face. The programming is so intense. Holy crap. So all you can do at this point is just kind of sit back, drink the jelly juice, read my information if you can handle, if you can stomach it. I couldn't stomach the whole child trafficking and the MK Ultra stuff for a very long time, and I didn't even want to admit that it was going on. But realizing that I come from a child of that type of belief system, that type of household, and it was repressed and suppressed for many, 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 many years, and finally I've had answers to all of my different mysteries and questions. I know pretty much everything out there, except for the whole thing with the reptilian. I'm not sure about the reptilian and the Pleiadians. That's the only thing I'm not sure about because it has to do with aliens, okay? But as far as mind control and satanic ritual abuse and adrenochrome drinkers and children that are missing every year and kids that are abused and by pedophiles and kids that are being used in the industry, like Steven Spielberg's daughter now wants to be a porn star. It makes you wonder, was she groomed for it? Well, duh. Then you start seeing, you're like, okay, there is definitely some truth. Now, as far as, David Icke and the reptilian stuff, I'm still on the fence with that, but I'm not going to discount it 100%. But I definitely am suspicious of that. But anyways, other than that, enjoy your Sunday. I'm going to enjoy my Sunday and kind of chuckle about kind of everything and just watch the world grow and burn simultaneously. Because my Jilly Juicers are going to be growing. They're going to be evolving. They're waking up. I'm kind of shocking some of my people that are not doing Jilly Juice. And some of the people, they're like, oh yeah, we know this is happening, but they're still going to do what they're going to do. They're probably not going to do Jilly Juice, but it's kind of entertainment what I'm putting out there. Not so much of a pathway to be like, okay, of understanding and then doing something about it and then changing the trajectory of their family. So I understand who my audience is, but I can only hope that those who are doing the Jilly Juice will stay on it and be strong enough, because when you're dealing with a microbial war, it will weaken you to where you are weaker on the battlefield. That's why Jilly Juice is so strong, so energizing, and so right on point. But you have to be able to handle the healing process and understand what pain is. Pain is evolution, all right? And so, and you have to release the excess antibodies, because inevitably you will be around someone who is newly vaccinated, and they will be shedding all over you. You can't escape the environment, so you're going to have to adapt to it. All right, have a good day. Bye.